Welcome to the Partnernomics Show, where industry thought leaders discuss the hottest topics in partnerships, ecosystems, and innovation. The Partnernomics Show is brought to you by IOLite Solutions, a product incubator specific to Salesforce. Now here's the host of the Partnernomics Show, Mark Brigman.
Welcome back to another episode of the Partnernomics Show. Good to be with you. Man, we got a special guest with tons of knowledge that he's ready to share with us. I've really enjoyed getting to know this thought leader and channel, Mr. Craig Booth. Craig, what's going on, man?
Hey, Mark, how you doing? Always appreciate the opportunity to sit down, speak with you, share a little bit about channels. So excited to be part of your podcast, and hopefully I can deliver something and not embarrass us on this call. But I appreciate.
Oh man, I have no doubt that man, I love chatting with you. I get a chance to always learn something new, and it's good to dig in with somebody else that's in the trenches, you know, living here kind of day to day. So it's good to compare notes. Good to compare notes with you. But Craig, CEO, founder, principal, Channel Force, an amazing book. Let's see, I've got it around here. I still continue to reference it.
Hey, I appreciate that.
Dude, I love it. And the thing I love about your methodology, or one of the many things I love about, is, man, you really take channel to the ground floor and kind of demystify, you know, what it is and give people some tactical steps for that. But before we dig in too deep, let me just, have you share your background. I mean, what did you do before Channel Force, and then why did you jump into the consultancy business?
Yeah, great question. So I have been in technology sales for about 30 years. Half that time was in direct sales roles. Actually had a really good career in the direct, sales side of it. The other 15 years or so now have been in the channel side. And I think I told you the story before that I didn't even know I was in channels. I was hired over at Juniper Networks. And as part of that, they tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, we need somebody to go and sell, help build a resell or go-to-market strategy through Verizon to their customers to sell Juniper Networks. Would you be interested in doing that? It was more of almost like an MSP type role. And I said, yeah, I don't know about that. And they said, hey, there's a promotion in it. You guys should really take a look at this. I said, okay. So
did they say promotion?
Yeah, exactly. I said,
you got my attention.
Okay. I jumped into it, and again, I attacked it like any other sales rep would. Identified the pain point of my customer. Started mapping out what I call a strategy board. So I'm mapping out how we're going to take our value, and address it through Verizon to the end customer. And I was really successful. I had a really good, a little bit of luck early on, but I was able to build a really good team, put a great strategy in place, really focused on structuring how we go to market. And we grew our business from 5 million to 111 million in 5 years. So that's the background, and that sort of got me into the channel world, so to speak. And here I am today. So through that, I've also been through a couple of other companies as far as building, channels and, building go-to-market strategies. I was actually recruited back to Juniper back in 2019, and took, from the point that I had left the first time and a couple of jobs I had gone through, I ended up writing the book that you referenced. And I took that methodology back into Juniper, and we were 191% of our number in 2020 and 100% of our number by June of 2021. And that sort of led me to say, hey, you know what? My methodology has worked 3 or 4 different places. It's really time to see if I can go out on my own and deliver this out, because I think there's some real good value, there.
Well, let's jump into that. So question number one, Channel Force, the book, the methodology, kind of share, why did you're already kind of starting to get into it, but, why did you write the book? And then at a high level, I mean, what is the methodology? What does it address?
Yeah, so there's a lot to that question. Again, 309 pages to that question, but here's kind of the high level. One of the biggest challenges from a sales guy that has moved into channels is trying to understand the fulfillment model. And that was my biggest issue, is this idea of running out, doing some basic enablement, but having no visibility to what's happening from the point that I've enabled a partner, and that, what my partner seller is actually doing moving downstream. So I felt like there were some issues there. The second thing that I think was a real big challenge was having a very structured process for how we build a go-to-market strategy. So the book was written to attack that issue in particular. And I have a model that I built. It's called the Indirect Sales Acceleration Model. It's a 5-phase model. It starts with a strategy assessment. So I start with assessing the solution strength. Then I assess the market opportunity. I assess the partner's impact, their ability to impact the market for sales, and I assess the reward structure. The assessment then moves to strategy. So the second phase of the model is, how do I take that assessment, build a set of strategies around that? So I'll just give a quick example because I can get too deep into this, but every assessment has 4 levels of strength. So if I assess a solution, I can have a strong solution, a favorable solution, a competitive solution, or a weak solution. And then each one of those assessments has a corresponding strategy. So if I have a strong solution, I challenge the market with my value proposition. If I have a favorable solution, I segment the market around my unique capabilities. If I have a competitive solution and I'm on par with everyone else, then I'm bundling, or I'm figuring out how I complement that solution to change the value proposition. And then if my product sucks, then I need to disrupt on price. And now I'm going at things from a price perspective. So my point is, for each one of those 4 assessments, solution strength, market opportunity, partner impact, and partner rewards, I run through a very similar process, 4 different strengths, 4 different strategies, and I bring them together under what's called a strategy profile. That strategy profile is then used to empower a solution to the market. So how do I then build my strategy for how I'm going to enable my partners? What kind of messaging am I going to put in place? So I build an empowerment plan based on the strategy profile. The empowerment plan then leads to an enablement plan, and the enablement plan leads to an execution plan. And that's really what the book is all about. It brings you through those 5 phases in detail. And the last thing I would mention, and I think we've had this conversation a bunch of times, the model that I put in place is all about active sellers. That's all I really care about, is how many active sellers we can create. And an active seller is somebody that's prospecting proactively in a set of accounts. And so the model really drives that messaging home. And that's how I've had really good success, is taking the channel down to the seller level, making sure we've resourced those sellers, and that we've got a structured process for them. So long answer, but that's the book in a nutshell.
I love there's so much about your methodology and what you lay out there, but this concept of an active seller, because at the end of the day, that's exactly what matters. The age-old question, is it quality or quantity? Well, it's both, but we're both, I think, completely aligned with it starts with quality, and get quality aligned, motivated partners, and then get the increased quantity of those aligned active sellers, as you call them. And I mean, that's what's going to build your program. A freaking signed contract does nothing for you if you do not have an active partner.
Yeah. And again, going down, it's the active sales rep. That's really what it comes down to, getting all the way down to the sales rep level, understanding who my champions are as sales reps, who's neutral, who's negative, right? How many of those sales reps have I turned up? It's probably the biggest issue with the channel. It's the reason we have this 80-20 rule, where 20% of our partners are generating 80% of the revenue, because we have a lot of partners that have been enabled and have been rewarded for fulfillment, rather than being proactive at positioning your value in a set of accounts. And that's really the secret. The secret to making a lot of money is, thinking about, if you can take just 10 or 15% more of those passive partners and turn them into active sellers, well, now I have 35% or 40% of my revenue is being generated, right? The math equation holds true all the way through, right? If I've turned up, my engagement rates and outreach and conversion rates and close rates, that should hold true across the partner community. So if I've turned up a whole bunch of additional partner sellers, and they're prospecting and running the strategies and the messaging, we're going to have a very similar math equation that's going to drive that revenue. So to me, this is something that every channel should be looking at. Every channel leader can drive a better ROI by lighting up their existing partners that are passive right now.
So this next question, so you've addressed this to a great degree, but I want to ask to double click on it and to do essentially like a comparison contrast between the channel force methodology and then what we've seen a lot of other, I call it channel sales methodologies over the last 40 years. In a nutshell, what's the difference between the channel force methodology and some of the other approaches that are taken by other organizations?
Yeah, by the way, that is a great question. So first of all, I want to compliment anybody that's taking a unique approach to try and solve the challenges of the channel. My approach, for me, it goes back to the active seller, like we talked about. And if we move the channel downstream far enough, we can literally turn the channel into a math equation. And some of the unique things that I do is, one, having a structured prospecting process that we lay over the top of our go to market. That's one of the things that's missing. We do a lot of account mapping, but we don't equip that seller very well with the structure that they need to be successful at prospecting an account. So what ends up happening, we end up with a lot of account mapping that goes nowhere. We never really got anything out of it because that seller wasn't given a recipe. So when we equip that person with a sales play that has the right messaging, and again, the sales play is built around a strategy, not just built around a bunch of marketing documents. It really is taking and defining the sales process, each step of that sales process, and then equipping the seller to execute it well. But when you put, the prospecting methodology that I use is called 4-3-2-1. I want a partner seller prospecting in 4 accounts. I'm equipping him with 3 different types of emails: an introduction email, an objection handling email, and an offer email. I want him to make 2 follow-up phone calls between the first email and the second email. And I want him to agree that he's going to leverage a referral to get to the economic buyer. And so by running that 4-3-2-1 process, it takes no more than 10 minutes a day for 3 days a week over a 3-week period to run the prospecting process. And when we do the scoring right for the accounts around an ICP, and we're measuring the relationship scores of those individuals with the economic buyer, we end up with a 22% or greater hit rate. So we start to find success early in the process. So what I do that's again quite a bit different is focusing on those active sellers. It's turning the channel into a math equation, and that's huge. It's not just kind of hope as a strategy. We can do predictive revenue streams by understanding how many active sellers that we're trending on, and once we know an average deal size, we know the close rates, we have an idea of the engagement rates, we can literally produce a predictive revenue stream outside of a forecast. So
I love some of your webinars, you talk about, reverse engineering, and I'm very much into the numbers, into the models as an economist. I think that's one of many reasons why we get along so well. It's time to turn this thing from an art into a science. You can put numbers behind it. You can make it predictable. You can make it repeatable. You can turn it into a process, but it's not just the front end of enablement. Here's a stack of PDFs. Now, let your magic happen. It's taking management and leadership down to a much deeper level with that partner seller and activating them and helping and enabling their success far beyond the initial wave of education, of product education.
No, 100%. And that's a great segue, because, the last webinar that I did, I was talking about a performance tool that I have built. And so, part of what we're doing is we're collecting like 11 points of data. We're plugging this into a tool that I built, and it comes back. It tells you, if you're a channel account manager or a channel leader, this is how you're going to go and get your number. You need X number of active sellers. You need to pipeline business in Q1, Q2 in order to hit your number by the end of the year. It'll tell you how many partner account managers you're going to need to manage the process. I mean, we get into just tons and tons of data that builds out a very structured plan for how to go out and attack and make the revenue. And I've got a tool that's very similar. that takes it down to the partner level, and we can actually plan the partner's performance to say, here's how many target accounts we need, here's the outreach that we need, here's the MDF funding and the cost of that MDF funding to augment the active sellers. So it really is building out this plan. And then I have an application called the TAP app that captures the performance execution of the partner seller and brings back that data so you can compare it with the KPIs we built in the very beginning of the plan. So again, very structured process and very detailed, but it's a way to ensure that we hit the number and exceed the number. So
Craig, you and I both love innovation. I think a lot of times whenever we hear the word innovation, our minds go to, well, product innovation only. But fact of the matter is, innovation just means anything new and just trying to find a better way to do that. You and I, before we hit the record button, we were just talking about, this is probably the most innovative that we've seen the channel in its 40 plus year career, since IBM kicked this thing off. And you're talking about a lot of the awesome innovation that your team is doing. But let's hit this topic a little bit. Let's talk about, for people that might not have been in the channel for 15 plus years like yourself, let's talk about innovation relative to channels and some of the stuff that you're seeing, and maybe even opportunities to further innovate years into the future.
Yeah. So, and again, this is a huge, broad topic. So when it comes to just the general channel, I feel like, man, there are some really great companies that are out doing amazing things in the channel. Like every week, I tend to talk to somebody that's got some new tool or new application that they're doing. And again, the innovation is all the way across the board. So I'll call out your company, Partnernomics, right? You guys are super innovative in building a structured process that you've now put into a platform. That is, amazing innovation in and of itself. And I feel like there's a lot of companies that are going to benefit from what you're doing there. Obviously there's lots of innovation around ecosystems and platforms and cloud markets and different, go-to-market approaches. On the Channel Force side, that was sort of the hallmark of starting the company. I felt like, wow, I've got some really different approaches that are solving some real key problems that the channel is struggling with. So, for me, the innovations that we've done have been strategy profiling. So the idea that we have a tool that you can answer a bunch of survey questions. I'll spit out a strategy profile that gives you an idea of what we need to do to build the right type of messaging and the right type of strategy to take forward through the partner community. The partner planning tool that I have, where we're sitting down and we're actually mapping out the territory and we're mapping out a revenue plan for how we're going to get there. And then we're building the resourcing plan around that. Again, that's another innovative approach to what we're doing. And then finally, I would say, or I wouldn't even say finally, but the TAP app is another application where we're actually, collecting the strategy execution of the partner seller and when they're prospecting. And so we can, again, go back and build the channel into a math equation. We can tell you how many active sellers you have, what accounts they're prospecting in, what the activity is within those accounts for prospecting. I can tell you your engagement rates, the number of meetings, the conversions to, into opportunities, your average deal size. So it becomes a dashboard that I can, manage the go-to-market side of this, equation in a really succinct way. And that dashboard comes back and tells you how a campaign's functioning, how a partner's functioning, how a CAM is functioning against all of those metrics. So I think it simplifies channel management, and it's a great tool. So, those innovations, active sellers, turning things into a math equation, I think are really key for how companies are going to be driving forward.
Yeah, so it seems that there is a ton of innovation, like you've mentioned, in the channel all across the board, whether you're looking at SaaS providers, different SaaS solutions that's out there, process, all of these different ways to go to market more with partners. But I think in that innovation, it brings all of these additional choices and, frankly, additional complexity almost, for channel leaders to look at and to decide, what is my best approach going forward? The last question here that I've got for you, Craig, is I'd like for you to speak to that channel leader, that channel manager, the channel chief, when they're looking at all these different options, all these different processes, all this different technology that's coming in. How would you boil it down, or what's kind of the advice that you would give to him or her as to, how to cut through all of the options out there
Yeah,
and try to focus a little bit on putting something forward that's
well,
going to work?
by the way, that is a great question. So, I don't know that I have like a super great answer other than like anything, right? We're all surrounded by noise all the time. And I think that there's more and more marketing. We're getting bombarded everywhere. And I think one of the biggest challenges that probably you and I and every, vendor that's delivering, value in this space is running into, which is how do people know to focus on Partnernomics? Or how do people know to actually dig into Channel Force when they're getting hit with competing messages? There's 1,001 things. So for me, the most important thing when anytime we're faced with a lot of noise, is let's boil it down to what's our core mission. Let's go down to the key thing that we're trying to do. And if the channel's mission is to drive revenue, and it's to create that incremental revenue at a lower cost and at a faster time to market. And if that's your mission, that's what you're trying to get out of your channel, then let's take it down to the lowest common denominator, which is the partner seller and the customer. And focusing our energy and our attention and our innovation in that space is what's going to roll up all those metrics further up. On the other end of that, I would also say having a really solid vision for how you're going to manage the channel. We can have all that activity and those metrics going on, down below. That's really good. But if you don't have something like Partner IQ over the top of that, that's the umbrella that brings it all together from a messaging standpoint, from a management, from a policy, all of those things, then I think your channel can fall apart. So I think having both of those two worlds, solidly done, thought through, and putting a good plan in place and executing on it, that to me is what matters. All the other things should fit in. All the other innovations and tools should fit into those two buckets. Your relationship between the vendor and the partner, and your relationship between the partner seller and the customer. And you just got to build your strategy around that. So anyway.
I love that, man. It's like put your customer in the center and then map your way backwards through partners, this channel, this indirect route you're taking. Set your partner in first, map it back, make sure you don't have any holes or be aware of where they are, which you have to have a solution for. But again, like in our past conversations, whenever I look at your methodology, it is a thick book. It is detailed. There's a lot in there, and I love that. But it's because you need to be aware of all of these different gates and potential landmines that we could be tripped up on. But I love that you have a lever at each one of those, and it is a math equation. And that's what's allowing partnership professionals to turn channel and turn partnering from an art into this blank canvas. We're not sure what it's going to look like in the end, to a science where we know what we're driving towards, and we're putting numbers, we're putting process, we're putting technology in place that will help us do that. Make it repeatable, make it predictable. It doesn't have to be a guessing game.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you're spot on that, right? It's all the connected tissue that's running around data. And that term is tossed around quite a bit. Like everybody's got like a data-driven this, that, or the other. But the reality is if our data collection or what we're focusing on is way too high up in the data stack, then we're running metrics on circumstantial evidence, where when we're getting down to the details of who the partner seller is calling on, what activity are they doing, what was the engagement, what was the response, when we're collecting that data. And I think I told you before, I have a company that I work with called Splash Metrics that has this automated buyer's journey that we're collecting data from the customer's interaction with our messaging. When you start to get to that level of data, it truly is a data-driven channel. And when we have that full visibility from the customer to the part, being able to attribute the value of the partner to the sale and their activity to generate that sale, all the way up to the general partnering metrics. You have that end-to-end visibility. It is such a powerful story, and it allows you to course correct quickly. It allows us to shrink the number of partners that we need, where we can focus on the number of sellers that we're going to grow within those partners. I just think it's, doing it right, doing the data collection right, focusing on the right things will have a tremendous impact on the revenue creation of the partner.
Could not agree more. Well, Craig, I'm looking forward to our continued collaboration. Yeah. I know we're both numbers geeks, and we're definitely all about bringing science into partnering and finding a better way for clients. So look forward to continuing to work with you. Continued success with Channel Force and all the awesome work that you're doing, man. I'm already looking forward to the next time I can hopefully drag you back on the show.
Yeah, by the way, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit today. So you've been great, Mark.
You bet. Thanks, Craig.
All right, thanks.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of the Partnernomics Show. Don't forget to subscribe to get the newest episodes at thepartnernomicsshow.com. Special thanks to our sponsors, Iolite. To learn more about Iolite, visit iolitepro.com. And Partnernomics, the science of partnering. To learn more about the suite of Partnernomics courses, coaching programs, and consulting services, visit partnernomics.com. See you on the next episode.